Right, so welcome to our full council meeting of the 26th of March 2026, and I'll just hand over to Chris McLeay for the opening karakia. Chris.
Thank you, Chair, and Arangaria councillors. Whakataka hou ki te uru, whakataka hou ki te tonga, kia me kinikina ki uta, kia me taratara ki tai, e hi aka ana te atikura, he teo, he huka, he ho hu, tihei mauri ora.
Thank you, Chris. So just for timing wise, just noting for councillors that we'll probably take a break in between the open and the public excluded, so you can get up and stretch your legs, etc. Apologies, I currently have an apology from Tipa Mahuta and Keith Holmes for lateness. Everybody else appears to be with us, so if I could have a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you, Robbie. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Confirmation of the agenda as is currently circulated now. We may move around items 7.1 and 7.2, which is the health and safety report and the statements of intent and half yearly reports. Just that we have been alerted to, I was invited to an online meeting with Ministers Watts and Willis discussing the National Fuel Plan. So not going to get to that, but we are going to get Janine to cover that. So if our process gets through early, then Janine will duck into that meeting. So we may just shift those two items around. But apart from that, it will be business as usual. So mover and a seconder for the confirmation of the meeting. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Katarina. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest that aren't already listed for any of the items today? That's a no. Thank you, Dave. So that brings us up to item 6, which is confirmation of the council minutes from the 25th of February. That is on page 5 of your agenda. If I can have a mover and second or any comments to those minutes. So moved by Chris Hughes. Seconded Liz. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Next one up is the block of minutes, and they are for the Stratton Poll Committee on the 10th of February, the Regional Growth and Resilience Committee on the 17th of February, the WRC Transport Committee from the 17th of February, Finance and Performance Committee, that's both the public and public excluded meeting minutes from the 18th of February, the CIRC meeting minutes, the open minutes only. We'll be bringing the closed public excluded minutes through in the PEX section, and that the minutes from the Future Proof Implementation Committee on the 25th of February 2026 all be confirmed for receipt. Are there any comments or a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Mike.
I just had a comment. Yeah. The new system of actually giving the resolution and this thing is very good. It's a great system, Dave. Very clear and easy to see.
Ben, you happy to second those? Thank you. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Certainly.
We're not just take
for lateness.
For lateness, okay.
Yes. Right, next one up is item 6.4, which is on page 51. And they are some recommendations that have come to us out of the Finance and Performance Committee. You will see the A, B, C, and D on your screen and in your agenda. And so perhaps the Chair of Finance and Performance, although his voice is fading, may like to give us a brief comment around those.
There's not a lot to say. They're pretty much what we expect, just part of our process of moving. I guess the major one that we had at the last meeting was a presentation from Lane on motion services. Got a lot coming down the pipeline at us on that. Other than that, there was nothing of note.
Thanks,
Unless
Ben.
people are interested in what's happening in terms of organisation, it's pretty much, targeting ahead of stage. Thanks to the staff and those responsible for maintaining costs, because the revenue's down, costs down by more. The other positive, of course, investment fund, which I suspect will have taken a hit over the
Janine's nodding behind you. So. Thanks for that, Chris. I got Ben.
I just wondered about the decrease in operating costs of 3 million. It's quite significant. Does the chair take any responsibility for that?
No, Moneybags over behind me does, and the chief executive.
Yeah, I'll just get Janine to quickly comment.
Thank you. Through the chair, and I haven't got the detail in front of me, but I suspect that will be things like the timing of our Iris Next Gen costs. So with program delays, that money will be moved out, so it's not a saving per se, and the difference. The key thing to keep an eye on will be the overall net change in retained earnings, which is the overall impact of.
Thanks for that, Janine. Mover and a seconder. Yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you, Gary. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. So we will bump Janine up the agenda list. And so now this is item 7.2 in your agenda, which is on page 93, which is the statements of intent and half-yearly reports from the council-controlled organisations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to take the reports largely as read, I guess just for clarity in terms of the two council-controlled organisations that we are shareholders in, providing different shared services, shared coordination of a number of functions. CoLab is obviously the entity that works within the Waikato region, and so we own that company along with the territorial authorities in the Waikato, as opposed to RSHL, which is the entity that is jointly owned by regional and unitary authorities across the country. So the focus of the two companies is different, and I think the statements of intent in some ways reflect some slightly different thinking at this point in time around the priorities or focus for those two companies. But really just happy to take any questions on that. Obviously the Chief Executive is on the board of CoLab, and I'm on the board of RSHL, so hopefully between us we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Janine. First up, Ben.
Yeah, a couple of questions. I think it goes to Chris McClay. I see recently they're advertising for someone to do infrastructure and transport for CoLab nationally. Do you want to talk about that?
In terms of the operational detail, what they're advertising for, I'm not fully across.
A full-time person, I think so.
But what I do know is they've entered into an agreement with the NZTA to the acronym's just gone from me, REG, I think, Roading Efficiency Group, it's where they score the condition of roads right across New Zealand and whatever, to provide administrative services with that, and probably to reach out to those councils to be engaged in it, how to best engage.
Right. I see also that we are part of their work in terms of regional transport vision. They have a regional transport model, and we're part of that. How does that feed back into the transport functions that we deliver?
So I'll probably ask Phil to comment on that, but the transport model is a consortium of all the councils across the region to get data that is used for vehicle flows, roading and public transport. But Phil, you might want to about that.
Yes, so that's correct. And we're one of the larger part owners along with NZTA and Hamilton City in that work. I chair the governance committee for the model. So we are involved heavily in coordinating the work that CoLab does in this space.
Yeah. And I guess for the CE, is there a likelihood that CoLab will become part of a future network with the CTBs or future reorganisation of the region?
That's a really interesting question. I wouldn't say it's a likelihood. Certainly at the moment, CoLab provides administrative services to the Waikato Mural Forum, and that's as far as it goes. There'll certainly, in the discussions, it's going to be the role of shared services. There'll be the role of what administration CoLab could play, but I don't see them at this stage being any more than that, unless they're requested to be. They're an interested observer from the side. Like ourselves, they are a regional entity, and we have some things that they tend to service a lot of territorial authority services.
And the last one is to Janine, is just the IRES NextGen pilot. Obviously, that goes across other regions, and it's going to be moving to the Otago Regional Council. How is IRES NextGen going as a system?
So through the chair, there's reporting on that comes through our Risk and Assurance Committee, both in terms of our own project status as well as the program. It's fair to say that there have been delays with that, and both from an Otago Regional Council perspective of working with Datacom, the provider of that product, around their experience, but engagement at an RSHL board level with Datacom board around performance overall within that contract and what the impact of that is on us as a customer. So the contract is held directly with RSHL.
Because I know Ministry of Environment is working with them to make sure that the IRES NextGen meets RMA reform changes. So there's obviously quite a lot of going on.
Yeah, so through the chair, I think as with a number of activities in that space, the right staff are having conversations with government ministries, but a lot of that is under NDA. But the MFE are well aware of IRES NextGen as a product, and the Chief Executive of RSHL working with them in terms of understanding that fit.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Thank you. Chris, on CoLab, I was reading through it and I was thinking I'd be quite interested in whether there'd be interest in them having a 10-year vision as opposed to their one. A lot about coming to a 3-year vision, and just mindful that the councils are doing their long-term plan. It would look at a lot more of what. That was one question, if you've got anything back to that. And the second point on it was, I mean, I love the concept of CoLab, but I watch it over the years just be what it is and be what it is. And it doesn't be more, I suppose, even though there's a lot of talk about what could happen there. And so one thing I'm considering is reflecting is that these reports come to us council by council, but less the shareholders as a group or even the Mural Forum together have a think about giving constructive feedback together about the vision of it. It's just going to keep kind of ticking along as it is. So I just want to maybe Warren to have a think about with the whether there's a conversation to be had as joint shareholders as opposed to one. I think it might just be a minor paper for us in the day, where there's a bigger question to be had. And the other last 2 points before I stop talking is, could I get some info sent to me about the opportunity development projects? Just mentioned, right, as an action. And the last one was for RSHL. Coming from the climate resilience space, I was the resilience explorer as being a joint thing, invest in and work through, because in that space it would, I understand it to be the best or softwares out there for communicating complicated information. See how more and our communities around New Zealand would really benefit from a language councils. Just on any of those 3 points and one, any commentary?
I'll come to Chris for comments first. Yeah.
Thanks for that. So there's always a lot of discussion around the board table about the projects that are put up, what new ones get taken up through the opportunity development, and how successful they are. And if you have a look over the years, there hasn't, there's been some new things come along, but there's not been a lot of change. A lot of that is because of resistance within councils themselves. And there's 5 chief executives, including myself, on the, but there's more chief executives across the region who've got to be taken on the journey. And for example, building consent function that they've talked about, maybe that they can streamline quite some time, and they've struggled to get that. It's having another go right now. It's from, and it's not from governance, it's probably from within management, within councils. And so work's being done in that area. The types of things in the opportunity development, new ideas come along, get put to the board, we put some money into it from that fund. Some get across the line, some don't. And if I give one topical example right now, we had a look at the opportunity of using council public land for EV charging facilities to help expand its network. At the end of the day, most councils didn't want to support it, or the availability of the reserve land that they had was too far from the electrical facilities to be able to power them. So they just weren't viable. But it's an interesting thing with the government just coming out to want to charging network throughout the country and ground land or the viable option. But they're the sort of things that go through opportunity development. There wasn't council uptake for it and support. Where councils do choose to get involved in activities, they then fund it amongst themselves. And there's some really good work actually starting to happen in the building. There's some movement in the roading space. Trade waste.
Any comment on Resilience Explorer?
It hasn't come up as a specific topic, but I know there are probably 2 initiatives that are being worked on at the moment that have come through the Regional Chief Executives Group. One of those is around asset management practices, and the other one is in that sort of hazards resilience space. Yeah, so certainly timely too. I'm happy to raise that. We've actually got a board meeting this afternoon.
Thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
really do can bring.
Thanks, Janine. Gary.
Mr. Chair, look, I'm not sure if it's the right place, so stop it if you want. Because I was thinking more aligned where Ben was and not Jen around CoLab and RSHL. And is it too early, and this is the point where I'm not sure I'm in the right space, is it too early to start talking about the future of those 2 organisations in a combined entity? I don't see both of them there. And so do we need to have any budgeting provision for either, and I don't see any assets in there to write down, but any write-downs or write-offs or redundancies that may come up? Because should we merge into some different entity, I think only one of those organisations, and probably the RSHL, will continue, not CoLab. But that's just my opinion.
Chris.
Those discussions need to be had and will be had through the Merrill Forum. Bear in mind there's 11 other DAs in our region and another council outside our region who benefits from CoLab and through the shared service of territorial authorities, in addition to the things that we have an interest in. So that'll be a live and well conversation. My advice would be it's too early to start writing that into our budgets now.
Yeah, thanks. And echo Chris's statements around that space. It is something that is being started to be thought of, and certainly something we'll carry on through the Merrill Forum discussions. Yeah.
So no harm in flagging it then to start thinking about it.
Yeah. No, thanks, Gary. Are there any other questions for Janine? Yeah, Liz.
Look, just a couple of quick things. I just was interested in the biosecurity $3 million funding for the bird flu.
Here, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. Oh, that's behind me. Yeah. So the $3 million, and I see that project now is is about to start. So it'd be really great to sort of get an ongoing updates on that. I think it's something I'm hearing more and more as a real risk. So and just one little thing on page 154, there's just a little typo, regional council instead of council.
Thanks for those comments, Liz. Thank you. We have a mover in Noel Smith. We have a seconder in Michael Downard. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Thank you very much. We'll now jump back to item 71, which is our health and safety report. And that is page 84 of your agenda. External. Stu Brown.
Good morning. I'll take the report as read and take you through a few points of interest and also cover off some of the actions from the last meeting. You'll see there on March 24 that a forklift fire caused fairly serious injury to an employee, and the company has been fined $300,000 and had to pay $5,000 in reparation. And the thing here that is of interest really is that the hazard was identified by the organisation, but they did nothing about it. And that's really important for us. And we do great hazard identification, but then it's the follow through on what we do with those hazards. We have hazardous substances down in the basement, and that has been a more recent thing that has had to be certified. And that's due to working in a dynamic environment where things change. And as things change, we need to be aware of that and get different certifications and SOPs updated and everything else. So it's really the check and work is done as imagined. We've had a couple of good instances of that this month reported by staff. We had a walkway that was damaged in the floods and another one that appears to have bowed. The staff have, it's something that they use all the time. They've come back, they've noted that. There's been a stop work to those sites, and we're having a structural assessment done to ensure that they're actually safe going forward. So it's a good example of that. We also continue our assurance work with the senior managers. We've had 30 through in the last week. This is really ensuring that safety and training and competence is fine there. As we move through, you'll see that the work safe prosecution, this is something that I brought to you a while ago around the truck driver that was on a cell phone and collided with a van. And he has now been sentenced to prison. This is one of the first times that we've seen an employee having a prison sentence, so fairly significant. Very serious incident. Also wanted just to draw your attention to the highlights from the wellbeing team. We have a small team in the organisation that are well connected, and you'll see there that there's a range of things going on every month, and it's good that we get engagement right across the organisation in that space. Hoping that the sun shines for them for the Relay for Life this weekend, but it's great just to note that that's going well. And I wanted to come back just on the questions from the last meeting. There was a few actions for me to respond to with follow-up, and one was around access to pump stations. So we've checked in on that, and there are no access to landowners in the hierarchy. We do have access to pump stations in the lower Waikato, and that's for the landowners to be able to support with weed clearing. I understand that the landowners that do have access and do have that weed clearing ability, they have been inducted and had manual handling advice provided to them for that. And also when they enter the pump station, any machines are guarded, and the pumps that they can turn off are a simple button. They don't actually access the cabinets there. So I'm confident that that is safe and secure. Also had a question regarding generators at our regional offices and the ability for us to do that. We've discussed that at ELT, and we have had success in Pyra recently where we've had flooding that a generator has been brought in to enable the office to continue, and a plug was installed so that that could be easily hooked up. Greg is picking that up as an action to look across the different regional sites to see that we can get plugs installed so that generators would be available if required for business continuity purposes. That's all the points I have. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks for that report, and thanks for the following up on those two items. Obviously, that pump station access was of a concern to councillors and certainly to risk and assurance. And the generators, it's good to see that there's something happening in that space, and I hope that is moved forward so that yeah, obviously Coromandel's facing a weather event at the moment, and that sort of thing. If we build those facilities into our regional spaces, then it's got to be a far better outcome for us. Go to Noel.
Yeah. Well, really,
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
And thankfully, in my time, we've had one report of cell phone use, and it was investigated and found to be unsubstantiated, but we haven't had anything else in 3.5 years in that regard. So that's great.
Thanks, Noel. Jennifer.
Thanks. Okay. It's minor feedback on the formatting of the report, but when I look at the exec summary, which is a serious incident occurred when a fire LPG distiller. Like, could we frame it so that our organisation but come up front and
Sure.
the learnings get couched as learnings?
Sure.
So just so it doesn't come across as if there's something really serious that's happened in your that kind of thing. That's all. And other than that, I feel like I'm reading there've been 16 ELT walkarounds over the past 6 and over every month. I was just wondering, it seems obvious that we're kind of like doing 1 or 2 a month, and then that rolling total doesn't change, which is fine. It's just, I wonder with detail of what the latest one found, or that's rather than the same kind of repetitive nature of it.
Do you like some more detail from those walkarounds?
Like, okay, I mean, if we're doing 16 in a year, what are some key ones? Highlight one, well,
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I
can
feel
do
like
that.
I'm not learning anything.
No problem. Thank you.
Having the section on other organisations slightly more clear that it's theirs and ours, us delineated helps the.
Thank you.
Go.
thanks, Stu. Just the EMSs seem quite like a large organisation. How well is that promoted through? Because obviously the views of the SOPs and the risk assessments that would, help because they change, weekly, monthly, daily. So yeah, how is that promoted to make sure that's done?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. We are reasonably comfortable with what we're seeing there as far as reporting every month. It's good. Our health and safety reps are pretty key in that space. So we meet with them, we discuss what's been going on through the month and how they can assist us with that in the investigations. Also with the move to involving the SLT here of the organisation and the assurance walkarounds and work, they will also kind of embed that need.
Mike. Tipper.
And thanks for the report. I do appreciate the formatting as well, but probably we've got enough few weeks behind us now. I'm just wanting to see how we are addressing workplace fatigue from weather events. It's been an ongoing point of discussion. We're told we're doing enough, and yet we're always having to exhaust staff commitment when these events occur. So I'd like to understand what's our proactive look at that, because it's an again, this ongoing event hasn't finished yet. And when I asked at the end of last year how we're preparing for this next weather period, we all just assumed, we'll just carry on as usual. So at the point where I don't think that's enough, it's the same team that we stretch every time we do this. So I'd just like to understand how we're taking our soundings and creating resilience when we need it over these particular months, for example. So, again, not yours alone, probably through you to the CE, but Aston.
It's a really good point, and it's been a topic of conversation recently with the executive, with the different events that have been going on. I've pulled some data for you if I can get it. Has decided it's not going to give me that, but from memory, we have had a good response from across the organisation to the most recent event. We had 14% of ICM respond. I think it was 12% from SPY, 15% from the CE's office in Tauranga Whenua and PNC, and about 20%, and I can't remember the other percent, from the organisation elsewhere in the directorate. So we've had quite a broad, I have heard that, it's kind of predominantly ICM that provide the response. And on a numbers basis, that is true. But as a percentage across the directorates, there's a fairly even spread. So we're all, reasonably in it together. But something that's really important is that we do share that workload, and we do have the resources and the depth to be able to respond for whenever an event might go on for longer than a week or two. Because if you start to get into 24-hour shifts and you need 3 or 4 deep, we have that. So Greg is working with his team and also potentially my team around the development side of things for training, to ensure that we can up those levels of skilled and qualified people to be able to respond. Something else that's quite important is that when we have an event and we do call upon people, they're managed effectively. So we have a deployment policy, and that requires that when people are deployed, that they're only working for a maximum of 8 hours, and that they get suitable breaks through that. And also requires that when they come back to their business as usual, that's rescoped, that they're not kind of burdened with huge weeks to catch back up on that. So we're thinking about all those things, but we are becoming a nation of more extreme weather. It's either very dry or very wet, and this is going to be something that continues. So it's important for us to have a good look at it. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah, Chris.
Mr. Chair, it's a very good question. As Stu says, that's a live and well conversation in the organisation. Obviously, where you have turnover of staff, we're continually training staff to a level to be able to assist in a response as and when it's needed. The difficulty becomes those more highly trained people. It takes longer to get them there, and when you turn over, and inevitably some of the technical skills you need, it's the same people who have technical skills elsewhere. So that's that whole sort of succession planning. Is that it's alive and well. I think it's a very good question. Maybe I'll touch on a bit later if we get time and catch up with yourselves outside of the meeting. I think when we start thinking about what future organisation structures could be and whatever, how an organisation or organisations work together to respond to these type of events becomes critical, and it's different to to just the operations everyday BAU, but has to be considered, I think.
Thanks for that, Chris. Robbie.
Just to go on from Tipper's question, I think it was about 53% of staff are trained in that emergency response, which needs to grow. The issue is the 3 number 1 system ones at the top. There's only 3. I've heard the number should be around 18. So that's a huge increase. Between 12 and 18 is what's needed at that top level. So I hope there's in the annual plan or the LTP, there's some form of funding to get staff up to that skill level in that area. The only thing I think I said to you the other day, Stu, is I'll take that data as that was the data that came out for the staff involved in every directorate for the weather event last month. But I'll also state that Waihau and Coromandel asked their staff not to respond because they're already worn out. So that statistic, as I said to you the other day, is skewed, and I'd like there a bit more work of what staff in Coromandel and Waihau were capable of coming in and helping but didn't. So that may change those numbers around a little bit. But yeah, thanks for your report. I already given my feedback to you on Tuesday of the other bits, so thank you.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Raina.
Good morning, Stu.
A question outside the box, okay, is to do with mental well-being of our staff, our people. And it's mostly to do about the announcement that the Crown has made about elected members, because there's been no conversation around what happens to the rest of the people, like the staff, whatever. I wondered, and that might do with Chris, how are we taking that on board and helping our people to be prepared of what might happen, either because the Crown is looking at 27, we're hoping to go to 28. But none of us is, well, I don't know as an elected member what that might mean to our staff. So it'd be good to start looking into that, Stu. If you know more than I do, it'd be great to come and tell us at some stage what the outlook might be for our staff while we all slightly disappear. Sure.
Might come to Chris for that, and it's probably something that can be expanded on in our chair or CE councillor catch up. But
yeah, and interestingly, at a central government level, they are interested in that as well, what the impacts of this are. So I'd have to say initially, when the announcements were made, there's quite a lot of shock. They had a big discussion with staff about our functions and activities continue. It was a bit of a governance conversation, but of course, inevitably, it weighs on everybody. What does it mean in the future? And we don't know, uncertainty, and we've been pretty honest about that. The way we see it in particular, well, a couple of things. Staff can come through with whatever anxieties they have, and they'll come through to their managers or P&C. And I think Stu, you were saying the other day that it's interesting the number of types of people approaching us about things outside of work, but work's probably just another factor that sits underneath it. I've just forgotten what else I was going to say there. But we're very aware of what that is. Oh, the other one's in the vacancy space. Actually, recruiting is getting harder because people are just wondering what the future looks like. And I'd say it's for local government as a sector, but particularly in the regional sector because of the announcements that were made.
Thanks for that, Chris. But if there are no other questions for Stu, I'm happy to move his report and a seconder. Thank you, Robbie. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stu. Our next item up is 7.3, which is on page 216 of your agenda, and that's the Waikato Triennial Agreement for 25-28. I was going to say Karen's talking that, but no, she's not. This is something that came to us previously. It has been to the mayoral forum for sign-off, and just an update. So,
well, I probably need to say very little more than that, other than I know that Rotorua District and Hamilton City have already adopted it, and I think South Waikato District Council is on the agenda today as well. I think the only thing that got raised at the mayoral, and I think there's been a minor adjustment made, is to do with the funding allocation model that CoLab uses to distribute the administration. But pretty minor. It was to do with an adjustment here.
Table on page 225. Oh.
Just stop me.
Thank you. We have a mover.
I
Seconder.
was here first before Noel.
Sorry, my democracy assistant failed to note your lights. So
I've got a question.
Excellent.
So it actually follows up. So item 9D, collaborating in the development of regional spatial plan to guide long-term land use. I just wanted to ask Tracy, in relation to the earlier document in Future Proof, there's a recommendation there, 3 pages of a strategic framework to guide development of regional spatial plans. Does she want to comment on that? How binding is that to the spatial plans? Because obviously spatial plans are crucial, the whole RMA reform and the CTBs and who manages them and who doesn't. And so I noticed Future Proof are actually providing input into how they should be formulated with yellow and green areas, and they're suggesting everything in the corridor between Tauranga. So do you have any comments, or should we take it offline?
For you, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. Morning, councillors. Happy to comment now, but it is definitely a wider conversation. Remember, we are not starting from Ground Zero, we've done spatial plan framework project, the inventory and the preparedness, and part of that was an analysis of what has already been done, making sure that what is being done fixed together as opposed to creates more confusion for us. And the work that Future Proof Commission, both the seminal pieces for this year being the Hamilton to Tauranga corridor and the South Hamilton North Waipa growth studies, have all been done with a future in mind. So it's part of a wider conversation that must travel through the mayoral forum under the training.
And just in terms of spatial planning, in terms of the RMA, regional spatial plans have got to be implemented before the RMA new provisions can be enacted. Is that correct?
So there is, you'll recollect the diagram that we've shown you in terms of the timing, and there is a statutory period which the spatial plans must be notified after enactment of the legislation.
Yep.
So legislation's anticipated around June, July at the latest to August, and then the spatial plans must be notified 15 months after enactment. At the moment, that may well change. However, the process for determining how we will go about that spatial plan, which is through a joint regional committee, for lack of a technical term, will need to be determined fairly promptly after the legislation. So that's probably going to be one of the primary conversations that the mayoral forum will be having towards the end of the year.
And how much engagement will regional councillors have in that
I think we're
process?
starting to step away from the triennial agreement, Ben.
Okay.
Thanks. And yeah, we'll leave that there. Any other questions around the triennial agreement? So we have a motion in front of us that has been moved by Councillor Smith and seconded by Councillor Mahuta. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Right, the next item up is the submission to Auckland Council's annual plan 26-27. And that's on page 228 of your agenda. Going to the table.
Thank you, Chair. Each year, staff monitor the annual plan consultations of our Waikato territorial authorities, as well as our neighbouring regional councils, to identify opportunities for our council to provide feedback. This is usually where topics are of interest to our council, or if the proposals will impact on our roles and responsibilities. So this report presents to council our draft submission to Auckland Council's 26-27 annual plan consultation for approval. So this is on page 233 to 235 of the agenda. So for some background, Auckland Council are proposing an average rates increase of 7.9%. This is primarily being driven by the cost of opening and operating the City Rail link. Auckland Council are not proposing any, they're not consulting on any specific proposals. So however, the consultation document highlights the key programs planned for the financial year. Our submission focuses on transport and Te Huia passenger rail, and also biodiversity and biosecurity. So the draft submission advocates for support for Auckland Council for Te Huia interregional passenger rail service and highlights a range of benefits that the service brings to the Auckland region. The draft submission also seeks commitment from Auckland Council on the future of the service in the final year of the trial, and requests a commitment to fund 50% of the local share costs as a demonstration of the interregional nature and benefit of the service. The submission also includes support for biodiversity and biosecurity initiatives, acknowledging that as Auckland's neighbour, we are impacted by those investments. And also just to note that Auckland Council are not holding a formal hearing process as part of the consultation. In lieu of that option, they have a number of community style events during the consultation period, which is an opportunity for the public to share their feedback and speak to their submissions. So staff have looked at this option, and we've not been identified it as being an appropriate forum for our council to speak to Auckland councillors, for a number of reasons. That the events are during the consultation period, so that there's no opportunity for a formal council sign-off. They're also not an event, and they were also unlikely to meet the criteria, which with the events being targeted to individuals and regional organisations and special interest groups. So the consultation closes on Sunday, the 29th of March. So we're seeking council's approval so that we can lodge prior to that date.
Thanks for that, Jane. Obviously, a few questions. Jennifer.
First question is, are Hamilton City Council and Waikato District Council their submission intimately? Is there any kind of coordination happening? Is anyone aware?
I'm certainly not aware of any, but Jane would be.
No, we are not aware of the intent for those councils to make a submission.
If we could talk to them to see if they're putting a submission, whether they. Nice. Yes, but it's pretty short notice. I get that. But that's something I'd like us to do in future. I get that we don't get an opportunity to speak to it. Could I just get an update from Liz? Are we governance to governance speaking with Auckland Council and work? Have we this term so far? Is this the first thing they're going to say?
I certainly haven't spoken to any of them. Obviously, we had that field trip where we spoke to Andy, but that's as far as it's gone with me.
Are there some plans to that discussion coming up? Sorry, I'll get you a mic.
I've got a speaking order. Can I get a mic for this, please?
Yeah, look, actually, so that came up this morning in a conversation that Phil and I have had as well around some of the strategic opportunities that might sit with sharing RTLPs more sort of North Island based. So yeah, there's definitely plans for more conversations, mostly to do just with the regional land.
I recall Andy invited us up. All right, and then suppose the question I've got, Bill, but do we have the in principle commitment for Te Huia as a city from Auckland City? But not the money, but do we have that?
We're well aware that Auckland sent a letter of support for the extension.
Thank you. I'm just checking. Great. So we'll take that. And then lastly, it was more, we're asking for 50% of the local costs, and noting that that's kind of, and hence that's the right thing to be asking for. But I wonder, reading this as a councillor, I wouldn't know what ballpark that's unless I'm doing research elsewhere. Would include some narrative in there. I mean, we're asking for money, but we tell them how much we're asking. Just a little bit of.
Don't think that figure might scare them.
Well, in that case, why are we asking for that figure? In that case, why not ask for a nominal amount to start the relationship? It's all a strategic thing, right? So, we could ask them for 100,000, a set number to start the relationship of them contributing towards the service. Those are all kind of strategic decisions that I suppose we've made our decisions, or we are about to, and we have in the past to basically just. But I haven't seen the relationship and the conversation be the actual negotiation of where we're going to land. It kind of feels like we send these letters and then we just get no. We send a letter and we get no. So just keen to kind of move up a level on that. That's my feedback, but I'm happy to sign it off and send it off to them.
Thank you, Ben.
Oh, I think it's a great letter or submission. I just note that item 9, seek your commitment to the future of the service for the trial. The letter they've sent us could be deemed to be that commitment, couldn't it? Yeah. So the real question I have is, do they give us feedback on our submission? And will they give us feedback about item number 10, the request for 50% local share? Is there some way we can ask for that?
Yeah, so through the chair, based on previous submissions made to Auckland Council, we have not received direct feedback, but we there could be
Can follow up.
a query there.
I guess the item 10 would be in their long-term plan, not the annual plan next year.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Noel.
When I read this, an old saying came to mind: "God loves a trier." And then I put up another one, but are we learning anything? And how often do we want to get knocked? And to me, we can go through the motions of sending, and we know the outcome already. It's not going to happen. So why do we bother? So my question is, can we have more information on Te Hui at the next Transport Committee meeting about the viability, the cost increases with fuel, etc.? Because I think we need to have some serious understanding of how this is progressing. So while it's subject, it's relevant. So I'm not sure that I can support submission because it's a waste of time.
There's another old saying, Noel, if you don't ask, you don't get. I've got Keith and then Tipper. Keith.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Mine's to do with page 233, transport, item 5. And it's a bit, while it's an oxymoron to call it a golden diamond, I think the use of golden triangle should be dropped out of the narrative, and we should be more inclusive to our whole region by using the diamond an example or analogy that Rodney Dow's been pushing on us.
Thank you, Keith. Tipper.
Kia ora, Keith. Maybe you want to check UNISA out because they're the ones that started selling that, the UNISA agreement with Auckland and Tauranga. We never named it. Okay, so that's not a misnomer of our council. It's something given to us by Wellington. You can change it. Probably my question is, we don't refer to any of the programs of work that are joint with Auckland. Is there a reason around the Gulf? We've got shared position statements, policy. Is there a reason that we don't refer to it to enhance our submission?
So
around the Hauraki Gulf work, noting transport's been well discussed in Canvas.
Thanks. You through the chair that happy to add that information in. It's not excluded for any particular reason.
I just note we're so often not on the Auckland agenda. If we don't note it, the elected members might not know we've done all this work with them already. Thank you.
Thanks for that point, Tipper, and the work in the Hauraki Gulf and around the Hauraki Gulf Forum table is worth noting. So we'll pick that up, I think, Jane. Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Warren. Just on item 10 again, I'm picking up on Jen's point and also Noel. What I'd be inclined to do, going to send it, I don't agree with what I'd prefer we look at the precedent set in Wellington. You've got Greater Wellington Transport working with Horizons, who've got a contribution which is set some certain between the two. That way we've got a bargaining block, if you like, if you go to Auckland, Wellington. You guys support us as well. Obviously, the numbers are going to be much smaller, as they should be. That will bring us back to a sensible fare.
Thanks, Chris. And yeah, I've always been a fan of examples in submissions, so I think we can take that point. Gary Maguire.
Just going back to item 9, the 7.9% rate increase that they're discussing, to shiver down my spine for rates control group. Has there been any follow-up from discussions with Andy Baker? Extension for
There's been no further discussion in that space. Angela.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jane, for the. Probably just follow on from a couple of points already made. Future Proof as well was a great example of partnership we have. And just also last Friday at an RTC workshop, we had fantastic engagement with our interregional partners, Auckland, Taranaki and Bay of Plenty. So highlighting that as well about interregional transport connections would be fantastic. I just wonder if we're a bit light on the buses that do go interregionally from North Waikato, Auckland. Strengthening that would be great, so it's not 100% focused or 95% focused on rail, because yeah, those buses are really important for the linkage as well. Yeah, but other than that, yeah,
Can I ask a question? If we do put in the submission, which I think we're doing, is can we send it individually to the councillors rather than being filtered down through thousands of submissions? Send it to them directly.
Process-wise, I'll take it. Yeah,
I was just going to say through Mr. Chair that I think if that was to happen, it wouldn't go from staff.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Look, just wanted to support, I guess, what just around that example, and I think it sounds like we're going to include that as well, because I think what it does is it starts to set, you know, some kind of space and room for examples right around the country to be in. It really starts to set the stance, right? This is something that we can do as, and wanted to support Angela in the bus between North.
Great, thank you. So the motion we have on the table is 1, to receive the report, and 2's crossed out, and 3 is that obviously the comments and that will be picked up, and then that myself and Chris McClay will approve the lodgement of that submission. So we've got a little bit of work to do in there, but before the 31st, was it? 29th. I got last time. Okay. A mover, thank you, Jennifer. Second, thank you, Katarina. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. Right, we now have a resolution to exclude the public from our upcoming PECs items. So thank you, Katarina. Thank you, Tipper. Yeah. All those in favour? Opposed? So carried. We will now take a 15-minute break, which 15. Right, I'll just get the Chris to close with the karakia. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, councillors. Unahia mai te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, tinako, te tinana, te hinenaro, e te ara takatu, koe rā e rongo, e whakaria aki ki runga, kia tina, homie, huie, tai ki.
Thank you very much. Meeting closed at 11:59. So the photo will happen in the reception, and then following that, we'll go into the chair and councillor catch up in Tui Kowhai. Oh, sorry, CE, councillor catch up in Tui Kowhai. And then following that, we'll have lunch and then our own one. Yeah.